Just a couple minutes after we normally start up. But I'm going to start up. I'm going to build the interface also. So, single view like we said. I probably already have one called Tip Calculator, so I'm just going to call it Tip Calc. All right. Save it to the desktop, of course, and create. All right. So I want to bring my main storyboard file out and then just start creating. There we go. All right, so the first thing, again, I'm just basing it off of this picture that I gave you. All right, the first thing that you got when you walked into class today. And there are always multiple ways of doing the same thing. So if I'm doing it a certain way to you, I wouldn't do it that way. That's fine. You do it whatever way makes the most sense to you. That's what you should be doing. All right. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to put in text field and drag. And put in a text field, not there, but I'm going to stick it up in the upper right-hand corner, pretty much. All right, make it a little bit bigger than it is right now. All right, that'll be my text field. And then I've got to grab the, there we go. Then I'm going to put a label in here. And again, as you know, the order in which you do these things does not matter. All right. So here's my labels that are going to have, what, 10%, 15%, and 20%. Again, I'm eyeballing these, so probably they're not lined up perfectly. I can almost bet you that they're not. And I guess I should have moved these over. These should all be moved over the way it looks. All right. Okay, and I want this to be a little bit smaller than it was. Hopefully you all got it too. And if you didn't do this, it's no biggie one way or the other. But there's a lot of ways that I can copy this. All right, and I can just do the Command C, Command V, and boom, there it is. So there I've got them. Again, you can see this isn't lined up perfectly. It doesn't look great, but it'll do. All right, at least for what I'm doing right now, it's going to be fine. All right, now, if you look, the row underneath it is basically the same, right? Okay, so I'm going to highlight all of this stuff right here. But no, not that. I want to highlight all of this. All right, and I want to do a Command D. That means duplicate. So now I just grabbed all of them and I duplicated them. All right, which to me is a lot faster. Okay, so now this has just got to change here to total. All right, again, I can move these labels over. I'm not concerned with them again right now. So as far as I can tell, did I miss anything? I don't think so. And it's, again, it's not perfect. It'll do. All right. So probably a good time for you also, if you haven't done so, to save. All right. I'm just running it just to make sure there's nothing screwed up in it. So it's not going to do anything right now. And that's not a problem. There it is. Okay, that's fine. The other thing we can do, it's not that you have to do this, but for the text field, that's the one field that when we start, we might want there to be a value in there. We don't have to, okay? But when you think about it, when you start, if we want to do this, okay, we could, as an example, we could put zeros in here, in here, in here, in here. You don't have to put them any place, but you might want to put those in there, depending on how you want to set it up. So for this text field right here, just going to put 0.00 in it for when it starts. All right, now I'm trying to make sure here that did that. All right. All right, now I'm right in assuming that's where everybody is, correct? So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into our viewcontroller.h file. Single click on that to make it active. All right. I'm going to put some comments in here. You don't have to put these in. And again, when I get done, I'm going to save mine. Okay? If you feel like keying this stuff in, go ahead. But I'm putting it in here. I put it in my own copy. But I just want to make sure that people understand what we're about to do here. All right? So. We have the same problem. Is that big enough? It is right now? All right, because I'm not sure. It is bigger than the last time I did it. I can tell that the font is bigger. Hopefully that's big enough for everybody. this is all stuff that hopefully by now, I'm not saying it's second nature, but it hopefully makes sense. We're going to go and create 12 variables right now. They'll all be typed IB outlets. As it says, IB outlets are macros that are used by the interface builder. Interface builder is what you see on the screen when you open up the storyboard file. All right, it maps variables to actual GUI controls. The only ones that we really have to worry about setting up in here are ones that we're going to be interacting with. On this program, it's going to be most of them. We're either going to be keying something into something or something is going to be coming there. Now, when you think about it, though, let's just seriously, let's look at the controls here. I'm going to count these. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Y'all agree with that? All right. But out of those 20, I'm going to put this in purple. All right. This, I'm just going to put X's here. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. At least those 9, as far as I can tell. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. Those I'm not going to be exactly interacting with. See what I'm saying? They're labels. So I don't really have to set IB outlets with those unless they're going to be interacting with the program. Now, when we did that other program last week, if you remember, we had this, and we had what? We had a button down here. We had a label up here, and we had a text field here. And the idea was, when the program ran, we put something into that text field, click the button, and the label changed. But what I'm getting to is when you look on here, those labels that I put the X's by and large, they're not going to change. So there's no reason to set up IB outlets for them. Does that make sense? Yeah, you're right. That one. Thank you. Yeah, I got to see. Yeah, you know, I did that on purpose to see if you were paying attention. But no, you were right and I'm wrong. So I thought there were 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. All right. And then let's, in green here, so these will change. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, at least those 10, 11 will change. All right. Hopefully everybody agrees with that and I didn't screw anything more up, anything else up. All right. The good news is I only have there's like 18 steps, nope, 21 steps. I guess a little more than I thought. And we're already on step 15. So you can see how much has been done already. I kept trying to break it down into more and more steps to make it easier for you. And then I went and looked at this and I thought, well, a lot of this has got to change because this is the old one. And I didn't realize that till before class started. But I will upgrade this and then put this out there also. All right. So I'm going to start putting those in. And there'll be one extra field that we put in here. Remember that as we come in here, all of this stuff has got to be, all these variables have to be right here. In other words, all the variables that we're going to create are going to be between the at interface and the at end. Okay? That makes sense? So we're going to put all that stuff there. And I'm trying to figure out why this didn't have a curly here. All right. That's where our variables will go. So if you don't have the curlies, put the curlies in. All right. So I'm going to type in all of the variables right now. I'll type them in, and I'm going to put a little comment off to the side. Again, whether you put that comment in there or don't put that comment in there is totally up to you. I don't care. All right. Now I'm gonna cheat here. I shouldn't do this, and I'm gonna get red stuff all over the place. All right, but rather than keying all this stuff in that many times. Yeah, whatever. That makes sense what I just did? I'm just doing basically a command copy and a command paste. So I'm going to change all these now. All right, and since I cheated here, these last ones, these first 9, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, those are all text fields. One of these that's going to be left, that's a label, right? That's a label. All right, and that's going to be a slider. So I'm going to have to change these that are in here, the ones at the end. Okay, just so you're aware of that. So a copy and paste, I guess, only takes you so far. Now, just so you know, a couple of these fields that are in here, now I look at it, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Tip 10, tip 15, tip 20, tip custom, total 10, total 15, total 20. Total custom, custom percent label, custom percent slider. I'm going to add one more field at the top because I forgot to. The order in which you put these fields in does not matter. We're going to get to that. And you'll notice if you look in here, the only field, this is not a mistake, the only field that's not an IB outlet is this string that's going to have our total on it. Right? That one is not an IB outlet. That's not a mistake is what I'm telling you. Okay? I don't think there's any mistakes on there. I'm going to double check it one more time and then we'll go on. So right now, for lack of better words, those are our variables. All right? We're only going to need one method in here that we're going to call directly. And think about when we're, if you've got that, sorry, because I know I gave you tons of stuff here. What we want to have generate this, when you think about it, is let's suppose for a second the custom thing is set wherever we want it set. So I'm not even going to deal with that right now. But if I start typing in 5632 like it's shown right there, when we put that in, when we put in the 5, and then we put in the 6, okay, then we put in the 3, then we put in the 2, that decimal point is going to be moving over 1 every time. So the first time we do it, it doesn't even know what's in there. All right, we don't want to be the ones that have to be in charge of this. The way that this thing is going to be set up is it's going to hold a variable that's a value that's a maximum of 6 places, which means that the biggest bill that we're expecting to have at our restaurant or whatever you're using this for is $9,999.99. Okay? And as we type numbers in, this stuff is going to move over for us automatically. We don't even have to worry about putting in the decimal place or whatever. All right, that'll be done for us. All right, so again, the other thing then that we need to get to put in here is our actual method that we're going to work with. All right? And again, that will come down here. I'm going to hit enter quite a few times so I can open up some room. So again, I want to put it in here. All right? And again, let's see. if you do want more stuff, I was out there on the net and found this. So if you're interested in this, if you go out to http://stackoverflow.com/questions/1643007/IB outlet and IB action. So if you go out there, that's got a little bit more of an explanation. Stack Overflow, you know, you've heard me say this, you've heard Mike say it, you've heard other people say it before. It's a great resource. All right. If something doesn't work or whatever. And if you didn't hear this, you know, when we started today, I didn't have sound. The sound was showing, so when I talked, you could see the microphone, the thing, you know, reverberating or whatever the heck it is, but there was no sound. So I went and Googled, no sound. And so did Stefan, and we were sitting there both looking at it, and I noticed, because the machine had fallen asleep, you know, it's set up so like after about 30 minutes it goes into sleep mode. There is some built-in problem with this, that when it goes into sleep mode, all right, that the microphone shuts off. And the only way you can start it back up again is to restart the system. So as soon as I restarted it, everything worked fine. All right, so there's going to be stuff like that that's going to happen, all right, that I'm not aware of or whatever. All right, so the whole thing for this, again, very small. It's going to be called calculate tip. All right, I'll give you just a second to put that in, and then hopefully everybody is caught up to where I am or ahead of me. No, you don't have to put that in. Oh boy. Well, if nothing else, this is going to end up being really interesting. So we'll see how this works. Like I said, this is all written for older stuff, and I really wish I'd have looked at it last night, and I didn't. But we're going to try it anyway. Because the next thing to do is to hook up the IB outlets with their corresponding interface builder controls. All right? So I want to go back to the storyboard. And again, I've got to hook all this stuff that's in here up. All right? But what I want to do is I want to hook all of this stuff up with those variables that we just came up with. All right? So in other words, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So 10, what's the slider to you, right? 11 out of those 13 variables. All right, so we want to hook those up now. The hidden one, and I don't remember what the other one is. Okay, we'll worry about those later. All right, so if you give me a second, I'm trying to figure out how to do this today, as opposed to the way we did it in the earlier version that we were using. Okay. That's not a great start. Okay, I think I just did what I wanted you to do, but I did it accidentally, and I'm not sure what I did. All right, so that's good. I want all of us to have this, because I think this is the way that we're going to do it now. Like I said, the old way doesn't work anymore. And if this doesn't work, we're just going to call it a period. All right? But if this works, then we'll have everything synced up. And if it doesn't work for some reason, we'll sync it up first thing next time. There's really not a lot of code in here. All right, we'll probably end up finishing this on Wednesday, but I want to talk about the code. And again, just so all of you know, like I said, if you go out there, that code's there already. All right, now the code is there, but it's there for the older version, so I'm going to have to go back in and rewrite it. So I'm going to write what's out there right now is it says tip calculator copied, because I made a copy of the file that I had of the folder I had this morning. But what you're going to have on Thursday, so what'll be there under, or Wednesday rather, 10/22/2014. So right now there's something that says tip calculator copy. All right, and what you'll have there next time will be tip calculator copy 2. And that one will have all the code, and that code will work. So I want to make sure, like I said, there's code in here now. I'm not going to guarantee you that code is going to work with this, with what we're doing. It worked with the old version, all right? But I want to go back and rewrite it, and I'll do that before class starts on Wednesday. Thank God for that 10 to 12 on Mondays and Wednesdays that I have, I guess. All right.
So you don't know how you got to that?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure it out right now. I believe that what you have to do, a little button in the center above the music note.
What?
Here?
Yeah.
All right.
That'll open it.
You all have that button?
The little arrow?
Sure. When you click that, does this show up?
Yeah.
No, mine disappeared.
Yeah.
Okay. Wait, I gotta help the special people.
No, it was open, when I clicked it, it closed.
Ah, gotcha. Okay. Okay.
You just don't click it.
Special. Boy, you like come at me a lot.
I thought you'd appreciate that. I really did. Okay, this still isn't what I wanted to show you though, but the thing about this, just so you know, if you take your mouse and you put it on any of the things that are in here, you'll notice that it highlights up there. Now, the reason that that is kind of important, just so you know, if you decide you come back later and you want to change anything that's up here, you know, something is the wrong color, the wrong shape, the wrong whatever, you can bring this up and start playing with it. All right, does that make sense? See, mine did too, John. Yeah, I don't think we're going to need it. All right. And I apologize. We've got this we got it done this far. Let's do this. All right? Let's do this. I'm going to save what you're working on. If you haven't already, maybe you have several times, but so I'm going to save it. All right? And what I'm going to do is, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to right now, I'm going to close the project. All right? And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the old one. All right. And you can see, whoops, sorry. don't worry right now about that bill field return and all that other stuff. Don't worry about that. Okay? Don't worry about this. But we've got all this done. We've got this done. All right? I don't remember what that is right now, so I'm not gonna worry about this right now. Okay? All right. So we've got most everything done, but what I want to do is, since we have just a couple minutes, is go look at the View Controller M file. All right. The good news is, when you start looking at some of the stuff that's in here, this should make sense to you from what you've already had in other languages. Now again, the syntax is different, I understand that, but the logic is the same. All right? That's just like setting a flag, right? I mean, there's nothing different than that. Okay? So this is saying that basically, yeah, if the toggle's on, then set it to no. All right? So what is this doing? This is saying make a local string variable that's called bill field text and set it equal to whatever we had in here. That make sense? All right. Then what we're about to do, all right, is it says float. This is basically converting it into a float. Because like anything else, when you put it in originally, it's a string. Okay, so that's converting it into a float right there. So it's a string. This is it's kind of like calling double.parseDouble type of an idea. The good news is you can't really, well, I'm going to say that you can't screw this up, and then one of you will find a way to probably prove me wrong. But you really can't screw it up in that all we're going to have for our keyboard are going to be numbers. So it's not like you can write hello in there. All right, so we'll have the keyboard set up so that it'll only take numbers, is what I'm telling you. Okay. And this right here is going to be set up to whenever we set the value up. Remember that slider, what you put in there, that's a thing that's got a value between 0 and 100. Unless you changed it, then it's 0 and 30, but it doesn't matter. All right. Okay, so let me move down on this a little bit. Oops. All right. I mean, I guess the bottom line is when you start looking at it in here, this doesn't look, at least the stuff that I see that's in here, doesn't really look all that different from C. Again, I'm not sure if you agree with that or disagree with that. Again, the calls down here are a little bit different. And the one that you saw up there were a little bit different. And again, this is the equivalent of a printf kind of right here. All right, new total divided by 10, new total times 10, and I'm trying to remember what that was for.
That's the 10%.
No. I think what it is if you only have 2 digits in there, you want to make sure that it's a cents figure. But if you've got more than 2 digits in there, so in other words, if I start to type some stuff into this field right here, all right, so if the first thing I put in is just a 5, what it wants to do is divide that 5 by 10, so it's 50 cents. Okay? And then if I put in a 6, the same thing. So now it's 56 cents. But now if I put in a 5 and a 6 so far, now if I put in a 3, it's got to be smart enough to do this and move that decimal place over. And that's what we're doing in here. Okay. So then bill text field, the equals bill total, new total. We're doing the same thing up here that we had done earlier. So what we're about to do is we're about to add our tip in. All right. So what's the tip 15% is your new total times 15%, 20, etc. I could have put a 0 there. It really doesn't matter. All right. And then we're formatting that in the same way. Now you'll notice in here it says else. This right here says, okay, that's going to handle everything if I set it here. All right, but what if I'm moving this around? All right, and that's going to handle that here. you have to be able to handle multiple things in here. Okay, I can put a number in here, and that's going to handle it. But what if I put a number in here, then I start jacking this back and forth? I've got to make sure, so the first bit of code in there is going to handle this, which is going to end up handling all of this, right there. But when I start moving this around, this is going to change in here. Does that make sense? It's kind of what I think what you would expect to have happen too. So that's what we're handling in here. So I'll let you take a look at that. And that's pretty much it. All right, I've got to go back, like I said, and do some rewrite between now and Wednesday. The only other thing that I would tell you is if we switch back again to the storyboard, if you have not done this, so I want to close this one. I want to bring the one we're working on again. I want to bring that back. Does everybody understand, too, that, okay, this is the one that we've been working on, or I have TipCalc, that if you double-click on it, if you double-click on the .xcode proj file, that'll also open up Xcode for you? Just so you know that. There's not a problem at all just opening up Xcode and then opening up the project. But the other thing is you can just highlight that file, double-click on it, and it'll start up Xcode for you also, and it'll start up the project. That's kind of like your solution file that you have in Visual Studio, okay? And the only thing is, again, on this custom slider right here, okay, somewhere in here, and I'm trying to remember which one it is, but on one of the things in here, you are able to go in and set, there you go, minimum, maximum, etc. Okay, so for this to actually work correctly, you're going to have to go in and make some changes in here. My minimum is going to be 0. My maximum is going to be 30. All right? And I don't remember, it's 30 or 0.3. I don't really care. But the point is, you're going to have to make some changes in there. All right? Because 0 right now really would correspond to a 0% tip. 1 would correspond to a 100% tip. So it's probably going to have to be 0 and 0.3. All right. And the current, you notice it's at 0.5. If I change this, for example, to 0.19 and hit enter, see how it moved? All right. I changed that in here because it defaulted to 0.5. But when I changed it to 0.19 and hit enter, this moved. All right. You might say, well, that's not right. That's not in the middle. Well, it shouldn't be in the middle because that's 0.19 where the maximum is 0.3. So it's about 2/3 of the way over. If you want it in the middle, you can set it at, right here, really it should be 0.15 would be right in the middle, if you want to do that. All right, so you can set those values to anything you want to set them to. That really and truly doesn't matter. Yes?
Art, I wanted to understand that no matter where you set the slider, the only text fields that it's going to affect is the tip and total at the bottom of
This slider is going to be, when we get done with it, this slider is going to be tied just to these two fields. That's what you're asking.
fields.
Yeah.
Right. So when you do build total,
Well, I'm sorry. These two fields and that label.
okay, so the tip and total in the table for 10%, 15%, 20%, those are your outputs only for the
Whatever
build
number,
total
whatever
text.
number you put in here. So if you put a new number in here,
Yep.
as you put the number in, so if I put in like they show in the book 5632 or whatever it is,
Right.
these 6 are automatically going to fill in. So are these 2. They are, right away. But as you move this, either left or right, then just these 2 are going to change. Am I answering your question?
Yeah.
Does what we're doing make sense? We're going to build basically the same thing tomorrow in the Android class. I'm going to talk a little bit about Android first. And again, I've got to go dig through my stuff and make sure I've got the code for you, and I'll give you the code. All right. And I can just pick on him a little bit because he's the only guy that's gone through the Android class. Do you think the Android stuff is easier?
Yeah.
Okay. But Android is quirky. Just so you know, you'll see this tomorrow, but it's quirky in its own way.
Yeah.
All right. For instance, what's going to happen is I'm going to talk about using the emulator for Android right away. And I'm going to strongly encourage that when you start up the class, you start up the Android emulator right away. Because the emulator, it's not like the emulator here. The emulator can take up till 15 minutes before it turns on. So you might want to do that first, and we'll talk about that. All right. The other thing, too, is when the emulator is actually up and running and you go to run your program, what you're going to see is a screen, and it'll have like a circle here, and it'll have like a little lock or something over there. And you have to go and drag that lock. In fact, the lock might be in the middle, and you got to drag it to the end. I don't remember. We'll see it tomorrow. But it's just goofy because it's different. All right. And you already know, because we've looked at this, that if you want to change what you have here as far as the size of the simulator, all right, you change it up here. Okay. What you're going to see tomorrow when we get into the stuff for Android is you have to set the emulator. There's a whole screen, and there probably are a good 10 to 20 built-in emulators. You can set up all of them. You could turn them all on. I mean, it's going to slow your program down, but you could set up a whole bunch of them. We're just going to set up one simple one when we get started. All right. And the thing that's kind of bad about some of this too is most people expect there's not a lot of documentation out there for people who are instructing in this. And the reason I'm telling you that is there's a lot of documentation that's out there as long as you're not using the simulator or the emulator. All right? But since the only way that we could run this in iOS would be for all of you to register as developers, and that's $99 a person. I don't think there'd be anybody in here who'd want to do that. All right, if you want to do that, let me know. But there's no price breaks. So if I want to do it, it's $99 also. There's no education price break whatsoever. All right. The nice thing about Android, just so you know, first of all, it's $25, and as far as I know, it's a one-time shot. For the iOS, it's $99 a year. I think for Android, it's $25 once, set it, and forget it. Not only that, when you get done with your Android, so if you finish this, you literally could email, I think it's the .apk file, to yourself, and you can run it on your phone if you've got an Android phone. You don't need anything special in order to do it. You just send it to yourself. It's basically, that's the executable. You open it up, boom, it'll run right on your phone or your tablet or whatever. It's not like that. Mac does not do things that way at all. They're so regimented in the way that they do everything. It's just incredible. So tomorrow, like I said, the interface tomorrow will look a little bit different. And it's funny because I went back and was doing the same thing. It's going to be almost a whole rebuild because some of that stuff has changed too. All right. So that's what I'm going to do tonight. Is try to see if I can rebuild that. Okay. I'll give you the old one regardless, but I would rather give you both the old one and the new rebuilt one and give those both to you tomorrow. I'm going to go slower with the Android stuff, just so you know, because you haven't done it before. But the good news is, having done this, you'll start to see a lot of the similarities between them. All right? So sorry we didn't get any further than this, but we do have the interface built, and hopefully we can add the code on Wednesday, and then we're done with this one. All right? Because I've got 2 or 3 more iOS projects that we can do. And if we do, like, say, 3 iOS projects and 1 or 2 Android, or 4 iOS and 2 Android, that's fine. I don't care. All right. Like I said, you are light years ahead of where the people last year were already. All right. And that's good news. All right, so that's all that I had. Now we'll see whether or not I've got sound on this. So.
Only have audio.